I might be a little bit pragmatic today. I will talk a little bit about numbers, a little bit about some information about local media in Ukraine, because I'm not just a journalist. I'm a journalist, and currently I'm editor-in-chief of a local Ukrainian newspaper, which is located in northwest of Ukraine and borders Belarus and Poland. And I just started my position like in summer. I stepped in because my dad, who was editor-in-chief of this newspaper for a long time, now is serving in the Ukrainian army. And I will also talk about this today a little bit, because this is also one of the problems that media in Ukraine are facing currently. But before that, I would like to share some, as I said, numbers, and to talk a little bit about problems that media in Ukraine are facing because of war, obviously. And first of all, the main challenges are obviously a shortage of staff, psychological stress, and a lack of funding. What I wanted to say about shortage of staff is obviously because of big problem. Lots of Ukrainians evacuated, moved to European countries, or just flew the country. Also, lots of Ukrainians are currently serving in the army, including my dad, who would like to be in this conference too today, but he cannot, obviously. And this is the main problem that we are facing today. And about also psychological stress, obviously. I was even today stressed to have electricity to be able to talk today online with you, because as you know, Ukraine suffers from electricity blackouts, and even now I was checking if I'm able to speak freely and normally because of that. So we're facing these very pragmatic problems. It's not something, it's something that we face every day, and it's not about theory. We face problems with democracy and threat to media in real life, with real problems that we see every day, as I mentioned before, with psychological stress, obviously a shortage of staff, and so on. I would also like to mention that about lack of funding, because as I mentioned before too, I'm a journalist of northwestern local media, and for example, I would share with you that there was a study in 2023-2024 by Media Development Foundation. This is a Ukrainian Center for Development of Independent Local Media. And they said that, for example, local media in Western and Central Ukraine receives less financial support than frontline regions. We were also, for example, in our media, we were thinking what we can do, because, for example, only 45% of income of local editorial offices in western regions of Ukraine have funding from donors, and they can obviously work freely and independently. And in comparison, for example, 73 of regional media in northern Ukraine, 87 in south, and 93 in eastern Ukraine, which is obvious because these regions suffer the most from Russian occupation, from Russian invasion, also missile attacks, and so on. But this is a very bad comparison, I would say, because the whole Ukraine obviously suffers a lot in different ways from war that we are facing today. And what it causes, what's the problem, right? With this underfunding of Western also parts of Ukraine, in terms of media, it's that because it creates news deserts. What is news deserts? I think you all know here that news deserts is when people in certain regions, they don't have access to information freely, so they are literally distant, they are in a bubble, they don't know what's happening. And it happens a lot in my region too, in our region, Volyna, because, for example, northern parts of our region that borders Belarus, they don't have access to Ukrainian media freely, and people there, they forced to listen to Belarusian propaganda from the border. And we also face this problem because it's hard to fight that, right? And I would like to say that obviously these news deserts, they harm the democratic development of our country, of our region also particularly. And here I might, I would like maybe to stop because I led you with the whole of these problems, right? Slowly, gradually, I led to this propaganda, right? And sometimes when I think what we can do, right? Because in Ukraine, for example, we have lots of NGOs, lots of movements, also media itself. We try to fight it with our own forces, right? We try to, when we see fake news or when we see like literal propaganda, we try to replace this, for example, even Belarusian media, we try to reach to people from northern parts of our region with our newspaper. We try to talk to them, we try to build some dialogue, but I think it's important also, besides from that, all of us, people not only from Ukraine, but also people from all over the world, in somehow we are all kind of victims of the propaganda, right? We are all kind of victims of Russian propaganda particularly. And I think one of the solutions also might sound crazy maybe, but every time you read the news, it's important to ask yourself, what I'm reading now. Am I a product of Russian propaganda? Am I, what the source of information? Some basic rules, right? But it affects our perception, obviously. And also, I would like to share, I think it's important when I talk to everyone, it's important also to say, as I said before, that Ukrainians face this horrible crimes against humanity, horrible crimes against our democracy face to face. And this is, for example, in the 2 years and 9 months since the start of Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine, there was 762 crimes against journalists and media committed in Ukraine. And also since the beginning of Russia's full-scale war, 329 Ukrainian media outlets have shut down, according to several studies of Ukrainian NGOs who are supporting independent local media. And for example, our media, where I work as an editor-in-chief temporary, we also faced that. We face the problems, as I already mentioned, with financial support from donors abroad. We also suffer from staff shortages because 2 of our workers are in the army, including my dad, who was editor-in-chief, and our designer. We also have problems with blackouts and so on. But not only that, I think it's important also to mention that we need to somehow mobilize all together to think of ways how we can protect, for example, our regions who face northern regions of Ukraine who also face this Belarusian propaganda. And And not only that, obviously, because I also wanted to mention that, for example, even our region, who is to be set rear from the front line, we also suffer from, for example, we have more air raid alerts since December, because, for example, there are some military trainings in Belarus, and it also affects work schedule and just work of journalists and editorial staff, because people have to hide when there is air raid siren to go to the bomb shelter. I think this is what I wanted to say, first of all, in general. And I might said lots of problems here, but as you can see, people still working, people still, as us, writing news, fighting the democracy and free regional, local media. And we still have hope that soon we will write not only about war and war crimes and casualties, deaths, and destruction, but also about free and independent future of Ukraine.